right, what's up, y'all? We are here today to talk about bone stock and also to do a bone stock demo to demystify this whole process and make it super simple and super elegant, which is what we are all about. I feel like I really don't have to talk much about the benefits of bone stock because it's in so much of the mainstream news and the holistic health realm. But just to make a big plug for why we want to consume it, you know, bone stock is extremely ancestral. There's evidence of bones being simmered as far back as I think 100,000 years ago. I remember looking at some compilation of some anthropological studies, and we found evidence of soups and bones and things like that really, really long ago. And then also, if we look at non-modernized ancestral populations still in existence today, they all make use of the entire animal, including simmering bones for long periods of time. And then bone stock is included in most ancestral traditional cuisines. And in fact, most of these traditional cuisines use liberally bone stock and also organ meats. So it's ancestral, and then the reason we might want to consume it, especially in this modern Western world, is that most of us consume a lot of muscle meat, and that's about it. And if we're coming from the low-fat paradigm and the fat-phobic paradigm, most of us are probably consuming nothing but muscle meat. And you have to understand that this body that we have, which by the way, we're an animal, this animal is a lot more than just muscle meat. This animal is skins and tendons and bones and ligaments and connective tissue and organs and things like that. So we advocate eating an animal from nose to tail to the best of our abilities so that we can give this animal the most stuff to work with, right? Most of us, I think, are semi-uncomfortable consuming organ meats and things like that on a regular basis, although we try to get people to move in that direction. But one really great modern hack, I guess, is that the word that we want to use, hack? Is that it?
Hack can work.
Okay, so modern hack, way around this, is to consume bone stock on a regular basis. Because bone stock is going to give us the nutrients that we need from the bones and the connective tissue and things like that. So if I simmer bones, especially the right kind of bones, for an extended period of time, that liquid contains all the connective tissue and the joints and the cartilage and the ligaments, and then some of the nutrients and things from the bones as well, okay? So when I consume bone stock, I'm kind of mimicking eating the rest of the animal to some degree, and we're getting probably the most crucial nutrients that we need from the rest of the animal. If I consume nothing but muscle meat, I start to run into imbalances over time. And one of the biggest ones is methionine. Too much methionine counterbalances glycine, and that can result in some kind of a toxic effect inside the body. Although both amino acids are extremely important, we do want that balanced out. And the best way to do that is consume bone stock and then collagen on a regular basis. Now, if we do that on a regular basis, we're mimicking that nose to tail consuming of the animal, and then also we get things that give the body what it needs to make us better at performance, because we're giving our body what it needs to heal all the different bones and joints and ligaments. It's also extremely detoxifying for the body because there's some nutrients within bone stock to help facilitate the detox pathways. It's very nourishing for the gut. There's a lot of holistic alternative therapeutic protocols like the gut and psychology syndrome that use the liberal use of bone stock because it has this healing and sealing effect on the small intestines and on the gut. And then also it can help with mood and sleep because we're getting some amino acids that cross the blood-brain barrier. We're also facilitating a little bit of sleep with some of the glycine because some people respond really well to that, right? So in bone stock, we're getting all the goodness of the rest of the animal and a lot of things that we might not otherwise be getting from just consuming muscle meat on a regular basis. All right? Any questions? Anything I did not cover? Sonia Jackson is here helping me, my cohort, my partner over here. All right, so let's talk about how to make it. Super simple, right? There's a lot of different recipes out there, but the bottom line is you just want to simmer bones for 24 hours, or if you have an Instant Pot, you got the magic of pressure cooking, which shortens that time duration, all right? So first thing you want to start with is some good bones. Now what I usually do is I keep a gallon freezer bag in my freezer, and as I eat things that contain bones, I just dump those bones into it until it fills up. So in here you're going to see that I've got, I don't even know what these are, bones from something. Some kind of animal, right? What is that, ribeye bones or something? And then I've also got marrow bones. Now I want to say something about marrow bones. When you buy bones to make bone stock, I would not buy marrow bones because these bones are extremely dense and they don't give up a lot of stuff. They're fine to use if you've got them. So I'm using them now because I have them left over from getting the marrow. But what I do is I buy marrow bones, I roast them in the oven, and then I take a knife and I get all that good marrow out of it and I put it into a saucepan and heat it up a little bit, and then I save that marrow and I use it for different purposes, okay? Then I put the bones in the freezer and I use these as part of my stock. So marrow bones, are not the dominant bones that you'd want to use, although they're fine. What you do want to get is something that has a lot of connective tissue. So what we have right here is some bones we got from Christensen Farms. These are beef knuckles. Maybe they're pork knuckles, I can't remember which one. But they're animal knuckles, and you can see there's a lot of white stuff here. So this is cartilage, tendons, ligaments, connective tissue, and we have a little bit of bone. So when we simmer this, all this is going to dissolve into the water, and when I drink that liquid, I'm drinking all of this goodness, okay? So this is going to be a mixture of these things. Now, all we're going to do, if you use a slow cooker, you're just going to put them into the slow cooker, and you're going to simmer it for 24 hours. Here we're going to use an Instant Pot, which mimics it, but it's just going to make it quicker. So we're going to put these bones in here. All right, so I've got almost enough bones to fill up this pot. Then for flavoring, now there's a lot of recipes out there that call for a lot of crazy stuff, right? My goal when I make some bone stock is to make a very pristine and simple stock that I can then use for different purposes later. So I want this to be very versatile. If I throw in a lot of different flavoring, like a lot of garlic and peppers and things that might make it taste good, then I limit how I can use it afterwards. What I like to do is make a very simple stock that I can then season the way that I want later when I use it later, okay? So the thing that I recommend to season it with, that's very basic, simple, and makes it taste amazing, is gonna be just like a half an onion. And when I do an onion, I'm gonna cut the onion in some big chunks, and I throw the skin and everything in there. Remember, simplicity, elegance, and then also a few carrots. And the carrots I might give just a rough chop, and then also we just throw those in there. And then we also like to use a little bit of apple cider vinegar for good measure. This helps to dissolve the bones a little bit. If I soak some bones in pure apple cider vinegar, they would dissolve pretty quick. And so this helps to pull minerals and things from the bones. There's no secret amount. You definitely don't want to make your bone stock taste like vinegar. And that's all we need to do for that. And then we're just going to fill this up with water, okay? All right, so I used enough water here to cover the bones, and the amount of water that you use is, you know, a personal call. You definitely want to cover the bones because the liquid is going to contain all the nutrients. Now, some people will ask about like the gelatinization of their stock, and so they think that if they have a really gelatinous stock, they did a good stock, and if they don't, they didn't. So what we would say is that you have to trust the process, right? It's about dilution. So if I have just a little bit of bones in here and I fill the rest of it up with water, it's going to be more diluted. It might not gelatinize simply because the concentration isn't there, but you have to trust the process. If I had one bone and I simmered that in a whole gallon of water, I'm still getting the nutrients from that one bone, but I'm definitely not going to get gelatinization because it's so diluted, versus if I just barely cover this with water because it's so concentrated with bones, I'm probably definitely going to get some gelatinization from it. But gelatinization does not define whether it's a good stock or not. What defines it is the process of cooking it for 24 hours or 240 minutes in a slow cooker. All right, so we're going to use this Instant Pot here. All right, we're going to put it to seal, and then we want the max minutes that we can use on the Instant Pot. So for an Instant Pot, the max minutes, as far as I know right now, if I go to manual, and let's just say that I was using this for some veggies or something, which would be up around 9, 10, or 11 minutes, I want to backtrack that until I go back to the reverse maximum minutes. And for this one, it's going to be 240 minutes divided by 60. That's about 4 hours. So in 4 hours, I get the same kind of stock that I would get from a slow cooker that takes 24 hours, okay? So then I'm just going to let that seal. And then we are going to wait 4 hours. All right, so after 4 hours, you're going to hear that beep go off, and then it goes into the warm setting. All right, what's great about the Instant Pot is it's going to keep it warm until you come home. You can set it and forget it. So even if it's sitting on the counter for, you know, a few hours, it's going to keep it warm enough that it doesn't start to go bad, right? So then you want it to depressurize. Over time, it will naturally depressurize. You have a valve up here that you can let it depressurize, but we say recommend, you know, let it go naturally. But let's just see what this goodness looks like here. And that's exactly what that goodness looks like, all right? So what I like to do is let this cool for a little bit, you know, so it's not piping hot. And then we're gonna pour this into some containers, all right? So to pour it into some containers, what I recommend is getting these freezer quarts from Amazon, right? That way you can keep some in the fridge and you can also freeze some in the freezer. All right, and then all I'm gonna do is use a fine metal strainer, and then I'm just gonna pour into this quart container up to the fill line. And usually in each one of these batches, I'm gonna get about 3 to 4 quarts. Ooh. I'm gonna give you some of this, Sonia. What are these? Now I do like to let the stock cool a little bit before doing this because, you know, we're putting hot liquid into plastic. That might be being a little bit too neurotic, but for demo purposes, we're just going to go right into it. I don't have a problem consuming this.
I don't either at all.
Yep. All right, so that's about 3 quarts. Now, if you look in here, you'll see the bones have completely dissolved to some degree. A lot of the connective tissue is off of it, which means that it's in the liquid. And then what's great about this is you can use these same bones and make a whole nother batch. So out of these set of bones, I'm gonna get 6 quarts of stock. And what we'll do is we'll add a little bit more carrot and onion to the process, and then we'll fill it up with water one more time, and then we'll put it back in the pot and let it go another 240 minutes, and then we'll have another 3 quarts of goodness, okay? That is our demo on how to make it. Now, if I'm going to consume this on a daily basis, you can use this gold. Oh, let's pull some out of the fridge. All right, so this is what some finished stock is going to look like. All right, so here we've got all right, now this has been, there's a little bit of a fat layer on top of it. Depending on if it's your first batch or how much fat you have on top of it, you may have a really thick layer of fat. What I like to do is pop that fat off, and then I'm not gonna consume that fat because it's been cooking for 240 minutes. I'll probably discard the fat, and then what we have in here, you can see, is some pretty gelatinous bone stock, and that's gonna vary depending on how much water you use and what type of bones you use, but that's what we're looking for right here, okay? Now, the way that I'm going to consume this most days is I will take a half a quart, I'll put it into a saucepan, I'll heat it up in the morning with a little bit of salt and pepper, I'll pour that into a thermos, I'll put a scoop of collagen powder into that and shake it up and bring it with me to work, and I'll usually consume that with my midday meal with some greens or something like that, or by itself midday, okay? But you can also use this as a base for soups, stews, to cook rice in. What else might we use some liquid for? Yeah, cook rice in it. So, yep. All right. So let us know if you have any questions. We do have a downloadable recipe for stock, ultimate bone stock and broth, and that is available as a PDF. And everything that we just went through is in this instructions. Again, I would keep it very simple and elegant. And let us know what questions you have. Okay. All right, y'all. I want to cover one more thing about this fat cap that I did not cover in that original video. When you first refrigerate your stock or freeze it, it's going to chill, and if it's gelatinous, it'll gelatinize. But what you'll have on the top is this layer of fat. And sometimes it'll be really thick, sometimes it won't. But that layer of fat is a protective layer of fat, okay? It seals the stock, and it keeps it from being exposed to the air, which means that it's going to make it last a lot longer. So I would leave that fat cap on until you go to consume your first part of that jar or a container, and then all you need to do is just pop that fat cap off. I'm squeezing this right here, and the fat's gonna come off. I would just peel this fat, and then I would throw that away because I think that fat's been damaged, and then now you wanna consume this bone stock within probably 3 to 5 days, and the way to know if it's bad or not is if it smells bad, okay? Hopefully that's useful, all right? We'll talk to y'all soon.